Werewolves, Old English for man-wolf or lycanthropy, are people that change during a full moon. With origins that originate from Greece and European folklore, werewolves are one of the classic monsters up there with Frankenstein and vampires. And just like those monsters, werewolves are used often to display one's struggle with themselves. You know, the usual theme of using a monster as some sort of symbol. And werewolves are pretty good at it. In my 22 long years on Earth, I've been exposed to werewolves in various different ways, either through video games like Skyrim or Sonic 06, or movies like Van Helsing and the Underworld series. Those are really my only experiences with the classic movie monster. And I ain't gonna sit here and front on ya. Werewolves are just pretty cool. Turning into a bipedal monster is awesome, and the gruesome body horror that often accompanies it is even cooler in my opinion. And the tragic nature of the monster itself is kind of cool in of its own right, to show an internal struggle or an internal conflict with yourself where you go into a blood-crazed frenzy pretty much every full moon is just nothing short of writing potential. Not to be a turbo nerd, but The Witcher 3 actually has a pretty solid side quest about hunting a werewolf that actually killed his wife without him realizing it. It's a solid side quest for the game. It's in the beginning practically, but yeah, spoilers for that one quest, I guess. I just want to highlight that the best thing about a werewolf is the tragic nature of the creature itself. It's somebody who has lost control of themselves or loses their control. But even knowing that, I've never actually spent time watching a movie that explores that, and in my opinion, a good quote-unquote werewolf film is hard to come by. So a couple of nights ago, I wanted to watch something new, so I popped in my DVD copy of An American Werewolf in London, a movie that has sat on my movie shelf for a very long time, but I just never got around to watching it. And going into the movie, I knew about the famous scenes about his dead friend and the inevitable transformation scene, but I never actually watched the movie. So I watched it and was amazed on how much I actually really enjoyed the movie, and now, like every burnt-out 20-something-year-old, I just want to talk about my special interests to an annoying length. So yeah. American Werewolf in London, ladies and gentlemen. Great movie. Let's roll it.
Just can't let them go.
Go. Stay on the road. Keep clear of the moors.
No. Sounds far away. Not far enough. Come on. Up the moors. Stick to the roads. The best of luck.
You really scared me, you shithead. You couldn't help me out for what?
Beware the moonlights.
Thank you.
We were attacked by a werewolf. I'm not listening to this. On the moors. We were attacked by a lycanthrope.
Help me!
I think I've lost my mind. I think you're not real. I think you're just another part of a bad dream. The wolf's bloodline must be severed. The last remaining werewolf must be destroyed. You, David. Take your life, David. Kill yourself. Before you kill others. You gotta believe me, David. When I beat the full moon, I'll sprout hair and fangs and eat people? Bullshit. Oh, God damn it, David, please believe me.
You know, what are you worried about Debbie Klein for anyway? You know, there are going to be plenty of girls on this trip.
Yeah, we're off to a great start.
American Werewolf in London follows David Kessler, who goes on a Johnny Silverhand, Handsome Jack type journey after him and his friend are brutally attacked by a werewolf in the middle of the night. David comes out on top as the only survivor, and his reward is his dead friend haunting him, telling him to f himself, or he goes through a gross body horror journey into becoming a werewolf. David and Jack's relationship is honestly the highlight of the film. Anytime they share the screen is great and always memorable. Their friendship is believable from the opening of the movie as just two best friends hiking around Europe together until they find themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time and inevitably are attacked by a werewolf, with David surviving to continue the curse. And that's pretty much the premise of the movie. One of my favorite things about it is how it actually handles the curse, where past victims begin to haunt you and will plead with you to kill yourself to end their own suffering because they're just walking corpses, pretty much just stuck in limbo until the curse inevitably ends. David's best friend Jack acts as our entry point into the curse, first appearing to David as a fresh corpse shortly after his arrival to the hospital. The actor that played Jack actually took some convincing. Apparently Griffin Dunne thought he looked too scary and people just wouldn't want to look at him, which is all thanks to the great makeup artist Rick Baker, who won an Emmy off this movie for just how well the makeup and effects are. And it shows. You really don't mention this movie without mentioning its practical effects, and it's all spectacular. Jack's makeup in particular is jarring, and I get why the actor was hesitant around it. He looks like a fresh victim. While sure, later he's more bearable, the first time you see him with his ripped throat is yucky and it's gross and impressive from a filmmaking standpoint. After David is done hitting on nurses, Jack tells him about the werewolf's curse and how he is a forced soul to mope around the earth until the werewolf curse is lifted. But to do that, that means that David has to die. John Landis, who wrote and directed the film, has a pretty solid take on the whole werewolf curse. The idea that your victims will haunt you after you kill them while you're in this uncontrollable form actually lends itself to the tragic nature of the monster. Werewolves as a whole creature and whole monster idea, I feel like are supposed to kind of grow into this blind bloodthirst every full moon, where some writers will write them in a way where they lock themselves up so they don't hurt people. They might not even know that they're werewolves. Or, dude, maybe it's Skyrim, and you're a member of an elite battle squad that, when you initiate a new member to your secret wolf club, you release them on a populated city that you live in, and hope it just doesn't get traced back to you for whatever reason. Either way, having those victims come back to you in a way where it haunts you is such a fun writing element for the classic werewolf curse. John Landis actually throws in a bunch of little things with the curse that I really like too, where like David in his normal form has a bunch of energy and has an absence of hunger, which is why when he turns he's like a starving animal and will attack anything in sight because he's a starving beast. He hasn't eaten anything. And of course, you know, the transformation scene. You know, I don't really know how I've gone on this long without talking about the scene that everyone knows the movie for, but David's inevitable transformation scene after the warnings from Jack is nothing but horrifying. David's face begins to protrude and begins to form into a wolf while his hands begin to extend. It's a beautifully horrific scene that has been talked to death. While I encourage everyone to go watch the scene because in terms of body horror, it's mwah, 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 mwah. I also encourage people to go watch the behind the scenes for the movie where Rick Baker talks about how he made it, because honestly hearing about it is just very inspiring. I'm also a huge fan of practical effects in films, and hearing how they pulled off the scenes just makes you want to go out and in some way try it yourself. While I do think the movie is great on all accounts, my only issue with it is how David is this back and forth on how seriously he takes the whole curse. One minute he is panicking, saying he believes that he's going to turn into a monster, and then the next minute he's knee deep in some British poontang and he's like, nah, this shit is fine and I'm just geeking up. I just wish it kind of picked a side, but I guess that is John Landis's comedy background poking through into the movie, which has to be the explanation for the weird Nazi wolf people scene, even if I did like the couple of dream sequences throughout the movie that was just kind of weird. While for Shirley's not intentional, David's struggle with the whole werewolfism and everything can also be interpreted as someone who is struggling and crumpling under the weight of survivor's guilt. While again not intentional, John Landis does not write David in any type of way where he comes off as feeling guilty for leaving his friend, but you can make the argument that David is only visualizing his friend Jack because internally he feels like he killed him. Originally, David does leave Jack to die. He does come back to see the tail end of, Jack getting mauled, but he does leave him originally, which could be the explanation to why David is seeing Jack everywhere, because, again, David didn't kill Jack while he was a werewolf. He was around when it happened, but he didn't kill him. Honestly, one of the more little interesting tidbits about the movie is how you can interpret it as somebody struggling with survivor's guilt, but again, I don't think David himself is written in a way where he feels guilty, which is my one big issue with the movie in of itself. But his inability to sleep without being reminded of the event, and of course the constant urging from Jack to David to take his own life, which he fails to do until inevitably his suicide by cop hits. But again, I don't think Landis intended this for a theme at all, and my one big wish is that David was written better as a character to where he does feel guilty about the things he does. On the more wolfier side of things, the movie opts to go for a four-legged creature than a bipedal one. You only ever actually see the monster in full glory a couple of times throughout the movie, so Baker purposely sculpted a more sinister face on the wolf, so the short time that it is on screen, it is always memorable and scary. And you know what, honestly, it works. Since it's not in your face a whole lot, you only really get a couple shots where you can feel like you get a good scope of how big the wolf is. When the dude in the subway gets killed on an escalator, you get this really wide shot of this wolf slowly creeping on the dude, and for the few seconds that you can see it, you can understand how big it is. The costume itself was actually half a puppet. Kevin Brennan, who played the wolf, basically they laid him on a plank of wood where he would lay straight across and use his arms to hold himself in place, but also pilot the two front legs, while two people in the back would quite literally wheelbarrow him controlling the two back legs. Apparently during production they did try a few ideas, like using a trained dog for the part, until they finally landed on the wheelbarrow strategy. This is kind of cheating, but watching the behind-the-scenes footage on the costume actually gives you a better scale on how big it is, and it almost makes you want to see it stand up during the film at some point, because it would be about little over human size, and it would be awesome to see. The film eventually culminates in a porn theater where David is being told to kill himself by his previous victims and now decrepit corpse of Jack. David, simply put, knows he should kill himself, but just doesn't have the strength to do it. But while in the theater itself, the moon rises, and, we know what happens next. David then goes on a killing rampage within the theater, and then eventually pushing out into the rest of London, where he is then cornered by the London police, and then fatally shot. The movie ends with David dead, and the werewolf's curse being ended. The credits roll to Blue Moon by the Marshalls, and that's the movie. John Landis's American Werewolf in London is a cult classic among horror fans, and like the thumbnail says, it reignited my love for film in general. I'm a huge movie guy, I got a Letterboxd account, what can I say, but before watching this, I just kind of felt burnt out. Nothing was interesting to me anymore unless your name was Robert Edgars. I was just burnt out from watching movies in general, so one night, like I said, I decided to pop this into my DVD player, and it honestly really got me back into movies in general. Overall, I could tell the amount of love put into the film, from the script to the acting to the effects to the way it's shot. Really, the only thing I had a problem with was the back and forth with David's character, but that is easily looked over with the rest of the film. And that's pretty much my rant for the movie. An American Werewolf in London is an amazing movie with a lot of love and thought put into it. While it does falter in some little ways, the gross body horror and everything else in the film makes up for it. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it, and do yourself the favor and watch it. Honestly, it sets the bar for werewolves in general for me. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you haven't, drop a like, maybe even subscribe. I make a lot of different content, from movies to video games to the occasional shit post. Sometimes something I got up on my channel you should get some sort of kick out of. Anyway, take it easy, everyone. I'll catch you later. Oh yeah, before I forget, everyone remember, stay off the moors.
Thank you.